Right? All right, well, kill it. YouTube is being good. All right, there's a shocker. All right, TikTok. TikTok is good. Let me turn on my light so I don't look horrible here. There we go. Little filler light. Actually, this I can take down. There we go. Of course, it's going to get stuck. Hello, TikTok. Hello, TikTok. Woo! Big news. I may open the curtains in a second. Big freaking news, everybody. Hey, guys. So, yes, the U.S. has just bombed Iran. We're still trying to sort of figure out what's going on. We have joined the war. We just bombed Iran. We bombed three plants. Hang on a second. I've got to find the tweet from Trump. 1 second here. I've got to make sure I've got Trump's tweet here. Maybe I don't. Hold on. They're going to be sharing it all over Twitter. Let me pull it up on Twitter. I'm not scared. I don't think people should be scared. Part of the reason I say that is because this is not the first time in my lifetime the U.S. has done military action, or the Brits or anybody else. This is not the first time. People should not be worried about that. So, obviously bad things can happen, but let me read this to you. Donald Trump tweeted moments ago, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There is not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter." This is very interesting. Trump mentions we bombed 3 nuclear sites. Fordo is the main one. That's the one that's buried in the mountainside. Okay, that the Israeli bombs could not hit. Only our huge bomb could hit. Natanz, the second site, that is the other really important site. Now, to explain a little bit more, the reason Fordo is important is because it's the site where seriously, dog? No. The dog is like begging for a treat. I'm like, not right now. We will feed the dog in a little bit. Fordo is the one where the highly enriched uranium is made, the uranium you need to make a bomb. Natanz is the one where it's a little more mass-produced uranium. They can do a hell of a lot more, but they can't make it as high a quality. So they can do a lot of it at Natanz, and then, from what I understand, they take it to Fordo and then refine it to make it bomb quality. Esfahan, I don't know. And I'm going to Google in 2 seconds to see what Esfahan is, because I was not familiar with it, but it is apparently a 3rd site in Iran. What's interesting is it sounds like Trump did something that I was talking about. I had mentioned, hold on, let's get the, going to get this with the news here, because I had said the other day that it's Israel struck the Esfahan nuclear site earlier today. Let me pull this up. Reuters, International Atomic Energy chief from the other day identifies Isfahan as Iran's planned uranium enrichment site. Aha. Iran said last week it would soon open an enrichment plant. So this is one that Iran was about to open. That's the 3rd one we struck. So that's okay. Yep. Isfahan, home to one of the world's biggest nuclear facilities, as the location of a uranium enrichment plant that Iran said it would soon open. Oh, in retaliation for a diplomatic push against it. Oh my. So this was Trump. It was probably important to do it, but Iran got cocky and got pissed off about all of this and said, we're going to open a new enrichment site because of everything you're doing to me. So Trump bombed it. Got like lint on my shoulder. Get the lint off my shoulder. So we don't know anything else right now. What is interesting about this is Trump just said we bombed these 3 nuclear sites. They're all uranium enrichment facilities. They're facilities you use for purifying the uranium to make a nuclear bomb. What is interesting is Trump's tweet suggests that that's it. We're done. It's the time for peace. This is something that I had actually suggested, which is kind of funny. I had said, you guys may remember, I had said the other day, I think I said it on the show. I said, what if Trump were to say, We're going to bomb Fordo, the main plant, and that's it. And then we're going home. And saying, Iran, if you want to hit us back, you can. But if you hit us back, then we are going to go after everything in your country. But if you don't hit us back, we're going after the main plant, and that's it. And then it's over. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if I said it to you all. Did I say it to you all? I said it to somebody. It looks like that's what Trump is doing. Now, he's doing more than just Fordo. He's doing Natanz and Esfahan as well, but he's hitting 3 main purifying plant enrichment plants and saying, that's it. Now, can it work? Maybe. I mean, if you're Iran, you're in a weird situation now because Trump just said, it's over. It's time for peace. And we've left the airspace. It's time for peace. He's saying it's done. We're not doing anymore. And I guarantee you, privately, they're telling the Iranians, if you hit us back, if you attack American air bases, if anybody does anything, we're going to go after your entire regime. This is I think it's very interesting because it was my idea. I don't know anybody told Trump actually, I did tweet it. I did tweet it last night, but I doubt somebody told Trump my idea. I'm actually pulling this up. I have to prove to you guys that I tweeted this. Hang on a second. Very interesting. I'm actually very surprised Trump did this, even though I said earlier today that Trump, oops, my mic, you're right. I'll put my good mic on. 1 second here, get my good mic on. Even though I'd said earlier today that I believe Trump is going to attack, he's leaning more towards attacking than not attacking, right? But it still wasn't clear when. Let me pull this up for you guys. I think I tweeted this. Beep, 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 beep. I know I tweeted this. Yep. Maybe I didn't. Well, I told somebody. Maybe I texted a bunch of you guys. In any case, it doesn't matter. But I wanted to find it. I'm not going to find it now. In any case, so yes, that was my idea. But I also was thinking, is my idea stupid? I don't know. Oh, this is it. Here, this is my tweet from 2 days ago. Here we go. Okay, 2 days ago, my tweet. Now it's going to be backwards for you guys. You guys, I will show. Actually, do I need to? Did I not flip my screen for you guys? Now you got me wondering if I didn't flip my screen for TikTok. I did not. There we go. Now you can see. So this was my tweet from 2 days ago. 3 days ago. Interesting idea. What if the U.S. tells the Iranians that we're soon taking out Fordo, but that's it? We won't bomb anything else unless the Iranians retaliate. Then it's scorched earth. I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what Trump is doing. That's what his tweet at least suggests. International law, Andy, just doesn't matter. I'm not saying this as a value judgment. Andy said, what about international law? It doesn't matter. Nobody obeys international law. You try to obey international law when it comes to war crimes and things. People tend to obey it, other than the Russians and some. But generally speaking, no. What countries always do is they always say it was self-defense, because international law allows you to basically preemptively attack someone who's about to attack you. Of course, Iran was not about to attack us, but nonetheless, that's going to be the argument. International law doesn't matter. I'm not saying I'm glad about that, but I'm just saying it doesn't matter. Do I believe China will get involved? No. Russia will not get involved either. Nope. The Russians, guys, Israel has been attacking Iran for 9 days now, 9.5 days now. The Trump administration has been talking about attacking Iran for several days now, right? Ever since Trump, like 4 days ago, whenever it was. What did Putin say? No problem, Andy. What did Putin say when Trump made clear he was going to bomb Iran? Nothing. Putin hasn't said a word. A word. The Russians overall have said things like, well, it would be bad if the U.S. attacked. We'd prefer if they didn't, right? The Chinese, same kind of thing. It'd be good if we didn't. Very weak statements. You've got to remember that what Putin has been doing in Ukraine, 3 times a week practically, the Russians have been literally threatening to bomb nuclear war against the United States 3 times a week over Ukraine. And they're doing it in Ukraine over America, if you give tanks to Ukraine, thank you for the gift, Jorge. If you give tanks to Ukraine, it could be nuclear war, right? In this case, it isn't even America giving weapons to Israel and that, or weapons to Ukraine, right? It's America literally getting involved in the war, and the Russians did not say anything. So Russia isn't doing anything. By the way, this is what you get. You may thank the Ukrainians for the Russians doing nothing. You may also thank Joe Biden because he helped a lot too. I didn't say he wasn't going to bomb. Wrong. I did not. I just did a video. Saying Biden was looking to bomb Iran in the next few days. And I did not say no. What was happening? Anyway, somebody's being goofy. 2 days ago, which by the way, had you watched my earlier shows, you would know. 2 days ago or a day ago, actually a day and a half ago, Trump started backing away. Trump started getting scared about bombing. Today, that's right. A bunch of you didn't get to see today's show. Today's show was just for the paid subscribers. In today's show, I said it changed. Trump went from yesterday being afraid of bombing to today, he's planning on bombing. Had you seen today's show, had you been a paid subscriber, you would have had the benefit of my analysis. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty wild. So I want to see. Trump is going to be speaking to the nation at 10 p.m. So we will see. Trump has bombed Iran, just in case. I realize people sort of come in and out at different times. So I want to make sure I keep people up to date on that. I don't know if the U.S. bombed 3 sites. Correct. I suspect the U.S. used more than 3 bombs. We bombed 3 sites. Fordo, which is the main super duper enrichment facility that's buried deep in the mountain. Natanz, that is not buried as deep, that Israel already did some damage to. And then Isfahan, which ironically is a new uranium enrichment facility that the Iranians were bragging about 2 days ago, because the Iranians basically said, well, thank you, Jess, for the gift. The Iranians said, well, America and Israel, since you're coming after me, we're going to open a new enrichment facility. Literally 2 days ago, the Iranians bragged about this. So Trump blew it up today. As far as people who are worried about this, a couple different things. This is not the first time in my life that we have done military action. We've done it a good amount in my life. So far, it's gone fine. And what I mean is sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's never been a situation of, oh my God, now we're all in danger. That's never happened and I'm pretty old. Any of the wars America's gotten into, any of the bombing we've had to do. It has never been a situation where it became dangerous or whatever for all of us at home. So I do not think you should worry about that. Obviously, anything can happen. Iran is a state supporter of terrorism, but still. 10 p.m. Eastern time, U.S. Trump is going to be speaking to the nation. So I do not get scared at stuff like this, but also I do this for a living, and I've been paying attention to this kind of stuff for 40 years. So, maybe that's part of it too. What comes next? Did we use a 30-ton bomb? Certainly we did. Yes, Bryce. Because in order to attack the Fordo facility, which is Iran's premier enrichment facility, the one that they would use to make the uranium for the bombs, and that's the one that's buried deep in the mountain, we would have to use the 30-pound bomb because no other bomb we have can reach deep enough to penetrate the mountain to destroy the facility. So I don't know whether we have said yet that we used the 30-pound bomb, but we certainly did, and we used B-2 bombers to do it. Now, Colonel Mustard, by the way, I don't know if he's with us tonight. Mustard deserves major credit. Mustard had posted on our Discord and said, these B-2 bombers going, it means we're bombing tonight. I think he literally said between 7 and 10 o'clock tonight, Eastern time. And he was right. And I wrote him back and I said, I'm not convinced we're bombing yet. I think we're getting the planes in position so that we can bomb possibly in a few days, whatever. Pakistan is not going to get involved. Nope. But I don't know if Mustard's with us. He'll get the message. I'm laughing because he literally said, he wrote a message on Discord and said, we're going in tonight between 7 and 10 p.m. This is pretty amazing. Let's see what happens. Wow. I'm trying to think what else, guys. So yes, the United States has bombed Iran. We have bombed 3, according to Donald Trump, we've bombed 3 nuclear facilities. They are nuclear enrichment facilities. In order to make a nuclear bomb, you need uranium, or I guess you could use plutonium too, but uranium, and the uranium has to be pure enough. It has to be super pure. You get all the impurities, whatever. You need like 90% pure uranium in order to make a bomb. Iran had 60% pure, which is way beyond civilian. Civilian purposes, you need up to 20% pure. Once you start making 60% pure like Iran did, the only reason you do that is preparing for a nuclear weapon. Iran had several facilities. One was Natanz. Natanz was a more mass production facility from what I've read, meaning they could do a lot of uranium, but they could only enrich it to a certain level, whether it was 60% or whatever it was, but to a certain level. They couldn't get it to weapons grade. Then they would go to the specialty facility, Fordo, Fordow, Fordo, and at that facility, they couldn't do as much at a time, but they could really purify it. That's where they would purify it to 90% and make it weapons grade, weapons quality. The third facility, Isfahan, that we bombed, is ironic because the Iranians bragged 2 days ago that because of what Israel and America were doing, they were going to open a third enrichment facility. So Trump bombed it and it's gone. We are not necessarily at war. Trump has said, thank you for the gifts, guys. Keep the gifts coming, please. I do this for a living. Trump has said, interestingly, in his tweet tonight, Trump said, let me pull this up again. Oh, hang on a second. I'm copying my tweet too, because and of course I lost my tweet. That's fine. I'll find my tweet later. That's funny. Matt Gaetz. 1 second here. Trump. Oops. Hold on. I'm going to pull up my tweet before I lose it here and save it just so I've got it. But yes, I know what I was going to say. So the issue is Trump in his statement tonight said that now is the time for peace. That means that Trump isn't going to be bombing anything else for right now. Very interesting. I think the idea, which is actually very smart, it was my idea. I doubt Trump got it from me, but it was my idea. I think the idea is that you hit these 3 nuclear facilities, and then you say, all done, we're done. And we're going home, time for peace, time to end the war. And if Iran hits America back, Trump says, okay, you hit us back, now we're going to hit you 1,000 times harder, and we're going after all of your facilities, all of your military, all of your everything. And it puts Iran in a very weird position because, of course, Iran, from its perspective, would say tit for tat. You hit us, we hit you. But if you're Iran and you're sitting there, you go, okay, America just bombed our 3 uranium enrichment facilities, but they've said they're not going to bomb anything else. If we hit them back, if we attack American military bases in the Middle East, if we go, close down the oil facilities or, close down the Strait of Hormuz, where oil is transported out by a lot of Arab countries. If we do that, the Americans are going to take it as an act of war, and they're going to obliterate our administration entirely. That puts Iran in a really weird spot. Because even if you could say, well, Iran has the right to hit back or whatever you want to say, that's not the question. The question for Iran is it wise for them to hit back? And honestly, it's something the Russians would do. Let's see. I'm trying to just sort of glean this from Donald Trump's tweet. But let's see what Iran does in response. Do you think Israel will keep bombing Iran? That's an interesting question, because when Trump said now is the time for peace, it raises the interesting question of, so are you saying Israel should stop? That's a very good question, actually, favorite. Are you saying Israel should stop bombing? Has Israel hit all the targets it needs to hit? It would be interesting. Now, it would be interesting if Israel said the same thing. If Trump had really coordinated with Israel and Israel was on board and they said, okay, now we're done. We're done. End of it. Iran stop. And Iran hits Israel again. Then Israel says, okay, game's over. We're taking you on. So very interesting. Very interesting. Russia will not intervene, Joe, because Russia is chicken. Not chicken, but chicken in the sense that they're scared of the consequences. Ukraine, God bless them, did us a huge favor. The Ukrainians destroyed the Russian military. Obviously, we and the Europeans and the Australians and the Canadians and the New Zealanders and others helped with our weapons, of course. But the Ukrainians destroyed the Russian military. And even though the Russians have gotten some land in Ukraine, and the Russians are slowly advancing, and the Ukrainians are screwed in some ways, right? Because they've lost 20% of their country is bad. but they've done so much damage to the Russians could not afford to intervene and help the Iranians. The Russians also could not afford to help the Syrians. Remember Assad, the dictator of Syria, how the Russians let him fall. He was their dictator for 50, he and his father, 50 years, 5-0. The man was a dictator of Syria, and the Russians let him fall. Thank you, TP, for the gift. The Russians let him fall because they didn't have the military might to go and defend Syria. So the Russians have now lost Syria. They're in danger of losing Iran. The Russians did not intervene to save Iran. The Russians had all week. The Russians had all week to tell the Israelis to stop. They didn't. The Russians had all week to tell the Americans, don't you dare do this. Now, and again, anyone who's watched my Ukraine broadcast knows the Russians 3 times a week threaten to go to war with us over Ukraine. 3 times a week. Literally, at some points, quite literally 3 times a week, the Russians would threaten nuclear war against us. And they threatened to bomb London. They loved bombing London, threatening to bomb London. All the Brits know this. The Russians were always threatening you guys. The Russians didn't threaten anybody. They've had 9 days to threaten Israel to stop attacking their ally, Iran. They've had 9 days to threaten America not to bomb Iran. Trump several days ago said he was going to bomb Iran, right? That's what thank you for the gift, Scully. And the Russians have only said it would be unfortunate. We hope they don't. It would be bad. Whereas in Ukraine, they were literally threatening to go to war with us. Didn't happen now because the Russians don't have the military to stop us. It's fascinating. I mean, absolutely. And if I seem excited, it's not necessarily happy or sad excited. This is what I do for a living. So when stuff like this happens, my adrenaline goes up because this is like a weather person during a hurricane. Your adrenaline goes up because this is what you've studied and worked all your decades for. You know, this is my background. I've studied at graduate school at Georgetown, international relations, worked at the United Nations, World Bank, etc. Like this kind of stuff happens and your adrenaline gets going. So don't interpret it as glee, but I am excited because this is the big time when stuff like this happens. Exactly. It's energy. It's emotion in a sense, but it's energy. Yeah. So we're going to see what happens here. Guys. I don't know. Iran will be very tempted to hit back. Let me see here. Not too much. I'm also going to pull up my Twitter feed and see what the experts are saying. I've got a really good number of experts on Twitter that I've culled over the years. Some of them Israel and Iran related, which let me pull this up right now. Iran is going to be very tempted to hit back. Iran is going to be tempted to fire missiles at our military bases in Iraq and other places. They might be tempted to try to hit the British bases in Cyprus. They might be tempted to go after our bases in the Arab world, Saudi Arabia, some of the other Arab countries we've got bases, right? Jordan, our military troops there at least. If they do that, Trump is going to say, that's it, right? We're going after you. Very interesting. Let me just see here what the latest is on my Twitter. As I said, I follow a bunch of defense experts on Twitter. So whenever stuff like this is going on, let me see here. Okay, interesting. Joyce Karam, who's very good. Update. U.S. bombs Iran. Trump announces it at 7:46 p.m., so an hour ago. He hit Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan, the 3 sites, enrichment sites we talked about. U.S. official says no more bombing expected. My God, they literally took my tweet. This is no more bombing expected. No indication of ground troops. Did coordinate with Israel. Did not target Khamenei, the Iranian leader. Very interesting. Hang on a second. Very interesting, this. So Trump is doing what, like I said, Trump is doing what I recommended. I don't think Trump is aware of what I recommended, but I recommended 3 days ago on the 19th, apparently, or 2 days ago, the 19th, that Trump announce he's going to attack Fordo, the main nuclear facility, and nothing else. In fact, he attacked 3 of them and nothing else, and then we're going home. And if Iran doesn't respond, if Iran doesn't hit bases, if Iran doesn't hit the oil in the region, the war's over. We're not going to hit them anymore. But if Iran does respond, if Iran does go after U.S. military, if Iran does go after U.S. bases, if Iran does go after U.S. allies, if Iran does try to stop the world's oil supply, then we will go after the regime and we will take the regime out. And it looks like that's exactly what Trump just said and what Trump is doing. Now, I think Iran, Cuddy just said Iran will respond. I think Iran will respond. I don't think there's two things with Iran. One, it's difficult if you're the Iranian regime to not respond because it looks bad, right? You just got bombed by the U.S. If you don't hit the, dropping something here. If you don't hit the U.S. back, I hate that when I drop something as I'm talking to you guys. Oh, well, I'll get it later. If you don't hit the U.S. back, there it is. I'm like playing with a paperclip as I talk to you. If you don't hit the U.S. back, you look bad. You look weak. And Iran is worried about looking weak at home, right? But Iran also has to sit here and say, can the Americans actually overthrow our regime? Possibly. It's not easy. But I think Trump will go in and try to overthrow the regime if they respond. I think he will. And the U.S. military is very big and very strong. It does not mean that, thank you for the gift there. Who's that from? Karen, thank you for the solstice. It does not mean that it would be easy for the U.S. to overthrow the regime, but they could do a lot of damage, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not, could the U.S. overthrow the regime? I don't know. Could the U.S. do massive damage to the Iranian regime? Yes. Could they hit all the regime headquarters? Yes. Could they hit the headquarters of the secret police? Yes. All the moral police that arrest and kill women for showing hair, which happened to Masa Amini? Or is it Amini? I'm trying to remember her last name, Masa's last name, 3 years ago, who they killed. She was arrested for a lock of hair sticking out, and they arrested her and killed her. Those morality police, we can go after them. So I think this is going to be very interesting to see what the Iranians do next, the Iranian government, because Trump has clearly told them, we did a limited attack. We went after 3 facilities. Now, by the way, this is interesting, too, that the U.S. is saying no more attacks, because that's not necessarily a smart idea. Typically, I'm not even looking, I'm sure Callum would be saying this to me. Typically, we're... Sasha, 1 second. My dog is getting upset because now is the time that I usually give her a little bit of food before bedtime. In a minute, I'll take a break and get the dog food because she's literally whining, going like, what is going on? You feed me at this hour. Typically what happens when you bomb something, you've got to go back and do a damage assessment. You've got to go back and see, did I do enough damage to destroy it, to whatever you're trying to accomplish? That, first of all, might take satellites during daytime to do. So it's only 4 a.m. in Iran or so. Was it 4 a.m, 5 a.m. right now? It's still morning. The sun has to rise before the satellites can really get a good view. That's the first problem. Second of all, some of these, I was talking to Callum about this earlier, some of these things you actually would, 4:30, thank you, Manana. It's 4:30 in the morning, so it's still dark. Some of these things, in order to know what the damage assessment is, you might even need people on the ground to look. So the problem is, if the spies, CIA, or not CIA, but NSA, Defense Department, look at these satellite images and they say, you know what, that main facility at Fordo, we missed it, or we hit it, but it didn't do enough damage. It's still usable. We're going to have to go hit it again. So I'm a little surprised that Trump said it's over. Now, having said that, maybe what Trump is thinking is there's no way the Iranians are going to be able to hold off. There's no way they're going to be able to hold off hitting the U.S. back. And if they hit the U.S. back, then Trump says, okay, that's it. That's my guess. But, this is important stuff. Iran getting a nuclear weapon is very bad. Iran was slowly trying to get a nuclear weapon. They were not about to get one in 2 weeks. That was not true. They were absolutely proceeding towards getting a weapon, but they were doing it slowly on purpose because they thought that way they wouldn't get bombed. And basically, they've been slowly perfecting the missiles they need, slowly building more, not even slowly. Ever since Trump pulled out of the nuclear agreement, Obama's nuclear agreement did stop Iran from mostly enriching the uranium they would need for the bomb. Trump pulled out and the enrichment went through the roof. But again, the enrichment went through the roof because Iran said, you know what? We're going to start making more uranium for bombs someday. I was sort of saying this all along, that one of the things you've got to realize with Iran, and it's complicated because the there we go. It's complicated because some people say, oh, you've been saying for years that Iran wants a nuclear weapon. Iran has wanted a nuclear weapon for years, but a couple things have been happening. One, they know that if they actually try to build a nuclear, if they actually try to assemble it, right? Like the assembly line where building a car, you take the windshield and the trunk and the wheels and you put them all together. They know if they did that with the bomb, the Israelis or the Americans would bomb them. And frankly, the Brits would probably help too. So Iran never tried to put the bomb together, but they have always been working on making the missiles better that they need to deliver the bomb. They've been working fervently on enriching the uranium they need to blow up the bomb. And they've been doing both of those. The only reason you do those is if you want to assemble a bomb. So they've been making the parts, but not assembling them in essence. Not all the parts, but a lot of it. So that's why people have been saying that Iran is not telling the truth when Iran says, oh, we don't want a nuclear weapon, or, oh, we have an edict, a fatwa that says we're not allowed to have nuclear weapons. Sure you do. Because the only reason you enrich uranium past 20% is for nuclear weapons. Iran enriched uranium to 60%. And in fact, 20 years ago, the United Nations found, I think it was 20 years ago, that Iran had enriched uranium to like 83%. 90% is what you need for the bomb. 83%. Yeah. So in any case, I don't think you should be scared. No, I'm not scared. I've been through this a lot. We had to go after Iraq the first time, the good war, the first time to liberate Kuwait. We went after Iraq the second time. That was a lie. That was George Bush. But again, we weren't in any significant danger. You're always in danger. But my point is, right, what happened? We didn't, nobody got hurt on our side. So yeah, thank you for the gift there. Thank you. But yeah, what happens next is going to depend on Iran. It's going to depend if Iran hits the U.S. back. Does Tulsi Gabbard resign? That's a fascinating question. Because Trump's director of national intelligence probably doesn't like this. Let me look here and see. I'm trying to see like what else we're hearing here. Typically what happens with a lot of things is we don't know if we won't really know what's going. We know what Trump has told us. We don't know anything else yet, right? We don't know anything else that Trump has told us, which is the U.S. has hit 3 nuclear enrichment facilities. By the way, TikTok folks, please do follow me. I do this for a living. I do a live Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern. We've been focusing really exclusively on Iran because I've been saying this was going to be a huge story. So please do follow me. I'll be doing updates, obviously, during the day tomorrow, any case, even though it's Sunday. But if you would, I would appreciate it. Now, the U.S. did not have congressional authorization. The problem is nobody gets congressional authorization anymore. That question comes up a lot. In the United States, the U.S. Senate declares war, but we have not declared war since World War II. So basically, presidents no longer declare war. Every Korea, Vietnam, Iraq 1, Iraq 2, Afghanistan, Grenada, Libya, anything you want. We've never had a declaration of war. Sometimes Congress authorized it. Congress authorized the first Gulf War, the good one, when we liberated Kuwait. But typically what the president has to do is the president would often go and brief a small group of Congress, the leaders, the chair of the intelligence or the defense committees. They would brief them on the fact that they were about to bomb or the bombs were about to hit. So typically they would get briefed tonight saying, look, the bombs are in the air, we're hitting in half an hour, whatever it is. Typically, but that's as far as it really goes with Congress. Trying to see here. Oh, more from Joyce Karam, who's a really good defense expert. This is not a regime change operation, but it is unprecedented in the context of U.S.-Iran dynamic. We're in uncharted waters. U.S. moving into force protection in the region as bases could come under attack, signaling to the regime this is limited to nuclear. Right. So we've as I said we would. We signaled the regime and said, we're only going after your nuclear stuff. We're not trying to take out the regime. But if you respond, we will take out your regime or try. With Israel hitting the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Iran will have to weigh options, how far, where it can respond. Gulf states are on alert. So the question becomes, too, as I said, will Israel hit? Thank you, Candy. Will Israel bomb anymore? Hold on. Oh, God. The Iranians can't confirm the news. So Iranian state media is saying they can't confirm anything yet. Wow. Yeah, U.S. is still saying no more attacks are planned, which I think is a bit of a mistake, because basically you've got to, if you're trying to destroy a facility, very often you don't destroy it on the first hit. You've got to wait for the satellites to do their thing, maybe people on the ground, to see, did you destroy it? And you typically have to do a second strike or third strike. So I'm a little surprised that we're saying no more attacks, but just looking here. So yes, just to remind folks, the U.S. just attacked 3 Iranian nuclear facilities. They were one was the most important, the one buried in the mountain. The second was the second most important, that the Israelis had already severely damaged. And the third one, ironically, Iran bragged 2 days ago that it was opening up a third nuclear facility for nuclear enrichment, purifying the uranium they would use in a bomb. And they bragged they were opening up a new facility because the Americans and the Israelis forced them. They forced their hand. Well, Trump blew it up. Rory says Iran just sent more ballistic missiles to Israel. I'm sure what you mean. That's the thing. I think Israel and Iran are going to keep bombing each other, but Trump is saying, I hit your nuclear facilities and I'm not hitting anything else. And if you don't want us to go after your regime, we're done. This is very. If the U.S. had to hit Iran, this is very smart the way Trump did it. Again, it was my idea, but it was very smart what Trump did, because he's limiting. It's a limited attack, and he says we don't want a broader war, but if you hit us, we will do a broader war. So now the Ukrainians, the Iranians have to decide: are they going to attack anymore? Very interesting. They might, DJH. The only thing is, a lot of the terrorist groups don't have a lot of power anymore. DJH says, my concern is terrorist groups retaliating as a proxy. Who? Hamas? Hamas would be one of the big threats. Israel's destroyed them significantly. Hezbollah, Israel destroyed them significantly. I mean, that is not to say there couldn't be terrorist groups. There might be. But Israel has already significantly degraded them a lot. Guess who else is in charge of the terrorist groups? Iran. Iran could try to do something, but if we find out that Iran launched a terrorist attack on any of our people, the Iranian government is going to get attacked very harshly by Trump in a way that they're not going to like. I'm looking here. Yeah, this is very interesting. Very interesting. I'm trying to see what other, honestly, we're going to see. I mean, I don't want to sort of hang up now because we got a lot of you guys on here, but I'm tempted to sort of eventually close up for an hour, see what news we find, and then come back, because right now we're still waiting to hear if there's any further updates at this point. Interesting. Iran's attacks on the U.S. 1983, 241 U.S. Marines murdered in Beirut by Iranian-backed Hezbollah. These are true. The 2000s, U.S. troops killed in Iraq by Iranian IEDs. 2020, U.S. Embassy in Baghdad stormed by Iranian proxies. 2024, by the way, this is true. Thank you for the gift, Blue. 2024, Iran tried to assassinate President Trump, which is true as well. That probably wasn't really smart, because Trump is somebody who, of course, would get revenge. I'm looking my other, where is this? I've got another list of military experts that Josh Marshall keeps. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, this is one of the One of the experts who was a former State Department official says, suggestion, folks, it's the middle of the night in Iran. We have no battle damage assessment, meaning we don't yet know what damage we've caused. We have one tweet from Trump. We will know more things soon and likely not know things for a while longer. Asking questions is fair, but answers are fleeting. Hot takes are exciting, but not diagnostic. That's what I was telling you is we don't yet know how the attack did, and we may not know until it's light out. And even then, we've got to get satellite photos. They've got to analyze them. I mean, Callum was telling me earlier today, you might even need people on the ground. Yeah, I think you're right, Callum. Actually, Callum, do you want to come on and chat with us about the military stuff? If you can, up to you. But I think it would be interesting. Please do follow me, guys, on TikTok. I do this for a living. I do a show every Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern time, U.S. We talk about the latest news from Washington. My background is foreign policy, actually. Not defense, but foreign policy. I did master's at Georgetown Foreign Service School, law degree from Georgetown, worked at the United Nations, worked at the World Bank, done a lot of international consulting around the world. Anyway, so I started doing this show a long time ago covering Ukraine. And then we switched to Ukraine and Trump, the administration, obviously. And now for the last week, I've been covering Iran because it seemed to be a big story. So let me see here. Actually, I'm going to send... I'm asking Callum if he wants to come live because Callum is former British military for 10 years. China and Russia are not going to get involved, I think. China and Russia have been very, very, very quiet the last 9 days. Strangely. Russia especially, and I talked about this before, anybody who's like, I've been following Ukraine religiously. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Philly. I've been following Ukraine religiously. I've been covering it for 3 years now, right? And the Russians routinely threaten to go to war with us over Ukraine, routinely. And they often threaten nuclear. And it's usually Medvedev, who's a top guy to Putin. And he literally threatens to bomb us multiple times a week, threatens to go after Britain, especially. He really doesn't like you guys. And the Russians did it about providing tanks. They were going to go to war. Providing F-16s to Ukraine. They were going to go to war. We did, by the way, provide both of those. Patriot missiles, they were going to go to war. What else? Was it? I'm trying to remember some of the other bombs and things that the Russians said, don't you dare, or we're going to war. And they didn't. The Russians threatened nuclear war. They didn't. The Russians didn't threaten anything, which is the really freaky thing. On Ukraine, the Russians literally threatened 3 times a week to go to war with us to try to stop us from giving weapons to Ukraine. On this, it's been 9 days of Israel bombing the Russians. Not a word, not bombing the Russians, Israel bombing the Iranians. Not a word for the Russians saying, Israel, you better stop. And Iran is their ally. I think they've got a treaty with Iran, right? Right? I mean, amazing. They've got a treaty with Iran. And I think I'm going to report that one. One moment. But the Russians said nothing. The Russians said absolutely nothing. And not only did the Russians not say anything about Israel attacking Iran for 9 days now, the Russians said nothing about Trump threatening to attack Iran. When Trump said evacuate Tehran, that meant, I said the other day, that meant Trump is saying he's going to attack. The Russians said nothing about it. The most the Russians said was, well, it would be really bad. It would be bad for the region. That was it. This is their ally that they've got a treaty with, like a mutual defense treaty or whatever, right? Nothing. I want to pull this up 1 second here. Hold on. I want to see what it is. Tell me about the defense treaty or whatever it is between the Russians and the Iranians. I want to see what the treaty really is. I don't know if it's mutual defense or if it's friendship or it's like a 20-year cooperation one. Right, 20-year strategic partnership, but defense. Well, joint R&D, joint exercises, mutual stance on aggression. If one is attacked, neither will aid the aggressor and both will seek. Oh, interesting. If one of them is attacked, neither will aid the aggressor and both will seek peaceful resolution. That's not a promise at all. That's an incredibly weak promise. So there was no mutual defense. Interesting. So they called it defense, but Russia did not. Wow, that's actually really obnoxious. So the Russians did not, thank you for the gift there, Derek. The Russians did not, in fact, have a defense treaty with the Iranians. They called it a defense treaty, and the treaty said, if either of us is attacked, please don't help the attacker go after us. Okay. I mean, wow. Are we okay? Yes, we're okay. We're okay. This happens a lot. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but this is not the first time in my lifetime that the U.S. has had to bomb another country, and we've been okay every time. This happens. It's very serious. It's very important. It's very historic, but we have never before been in a situation where we needed to panic over it, and I don't think you need to panic now. But yeah, so I think China's in the same boat. China has not been saying much. I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. Somebody just called him something. I'm not a big fan of Donald Trump. I would prefer somebody else be dealing with this war personally, but you deal with the president, you fight with the president you've got. I think his approach was actually very smart. If you are going to bomb, which Trump did, his approach was to go after a limited strike on 3 facilities, the 3 uranium enrichment facilities, the facilities they need to make the uranium for the bomb. And that's it. And then he said, we're done. We're done. And he's telling Iran, if you don't hit us back, we won't hit you back, right? But if Iran does hit us back, he's going to hit Iran back really hard. I'm not sure Iran's going to be able to control itself, but let's see. But very smart, because also if Iran hits us back in terms of domestic audience in the United States, Trump could say, look, right, we took out their nuclear facilities. It was only 3 of them, limited, and we told them we're done. They decided to attack our troops. We're going after them. So that is what he will say. Congress, he may have consulted with Congress, but Congress doesn't really have a say anymore, really, in these kind of things. They're supposed to constitutionally, but they don't. Congress has not had a say since World War II, really. World War II was the last official war declared by Congress. So, Flying Medic says, my personal thought regarding China, they won't risk a conflict with the U.S. over Iran. They want Taiwan. If they entered a conflict with the U.S., their abilities to take Taiwan would be greatly reduced. Now, what's interesting, Iran's tweet. Did Iran tweet? What did Iran tweet? I'm going to pull up my thread here. I follow a lot of defense folks. Thank you for the gifts on TikTok, guys. Please do follow me on TikTok. Let me see here. All right, nothing there. I've got 2 different Iran or Israel actually. That's Josh's. Let me find mine. Israel. I've also got an Iran one, but let me check Israel first. There you go. CBS News reports that the U.S. informed Iran that the strikes on nuclear facilities are all the United States was intending to do without any plans for regime change, which is what I proposed. Yeah. And that basically, if they don't hit us back, we won't hit them back. Very interesting. Yep. Aimed solely at the nuclear facilities, not at toppling the regime. Very interesting. No more strikes are expected, according to a U.S. official. The U.S. is focused on protecting its military bases now. Russia's not going to join. No, Russia's too weak. The Ukrainians weakened Russia too much. The Ukrainians did us a huge favor. The Ukrainians, by the way, people of Syria, you may thank Ukraine and you may thank Joe Biden, the French, the Germans, the Brits, the Canadians, the Australians, the Baltics. You may thank the Europeans, the North Americans, and the South Asians, or South Pacific, for the liberation of Syria, because Russia could have gone and tried to save the dictatorship that was in power for 50 years. Denmark, I included you in Europe, Hannah. I realized I was having to name too many countries, so I said Europe. That the Russians realized that their 50-year dictatorship in Syria by the Assad family was coming to an end. And the Russians could have intervened. They've intervened before. They could have intervened and tried to save Assad. They didn't have the military to do it. because of Ukraine. Ukraine has so bogged down the Russians. Ukraine has so destroyed the Russian military, destroyed Russian troops, that the Russians didn't have the military power to go and defend the Syrians. That is why that is one big reason why the Syrians are now free, because the Ukrainians destroyed the Russians military. Obviously, you're free too because you rose up and overthrew a dictatorship. I'm not going to take your guys' credit away from you in Syria, but this was huge. Iran, the same thing in terms of U.S. troops with Americans and everything else. We are in a much better position with regards to Iran because Russia doesn't have the military to defend Iran. China's been sitting back and not doing much either. No, this has been kind of remarkable. The Middle East, ironically, is in a better situation than it's been in decades because Iran's power is at a, what's the word? Nadir, down at the bottom. Apex versus nadir. They've lost Hezbollah, basically. Hamas has been neutered, not 100%, but to a large degree. Syria is gone. Syria was their big ally. And now Iran itself is seriously crippled. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Sorry, somebody just, a Middle Eastern analyst just tweeted, it's like a funeral on Al Jazeera. Okay, that made me laugh. I'm sorry, but that was pretty funny. Al Jazeera, I will say, is kind of biased, which, they're Middle Eastern media. So, of course, they're biased to the Middle East, but it still makes me laugh. Guys, you've got to have a little levity here. These are serious matters, but, you've got to have a little bit here. Hang on a second. Oops, I'm trying to, oh, shoot. I was trying to save that tweet. So, yeah, we will not know anything more about this, I think, for several hours. But the Trump administration, Trump did, in fact, bomb 3 Iranian nuclear sites. Very important. Very interesting. Really interesting. China, Taiwan. This was hugely important for China because, honestly, as I said, I did a live this morning for the monthly. Feel free to subscribe too. If you like my work, if you like my reporting, become a subscriber on TikTok or YouTube. You can support my work. I appreciate it. Monthly subscriber. But I do a show every Saturday morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. I'm in Washington, D.C. for the monthly subscribers. And what I said this morning was, yesterday, Trump was backing off. Yesterday, Trump got scared. Today, Trump was leaning towards, basically yesterday, like in the middle, yesterday, Trump was afraid of war. Before yesterday, pro-war. Yesterday, afraid of war. Today, he was going to war again. That's what I said this morning. And that's clearly where we are. Thank you, Mario, for the gift membership. Mama Knows Best picked up a gift membership. Lovely. Yeah, wild. Egypt, I don't know about that. Andy says, I can't imagine Egypt is thrilled. Most countries don't love Iran. And what I mean is, as the Iranians always, by the way, I Googled last night because I never understood. I thought it was regime supporters. Some Iranians would come to our threads and say, don't call it Iran, it's the Islamic Republic. I thought they were regime supporters trying to say, show respect for, the Ayatollah by calling it the Islamic Republic. Apparently, I did not know this. Apparently, any of Iranians let me know, but apparently among Iranians, it's very important to call it the Islamic Republic when you're criticizing it, because your point is you're criticizing the Ayatollah. You're not criticizing the people. Am I right or wrong here? Help me out, anybody who's Iranian, who's Persian among us here. But I was told that's what that is, because to me, calling it the Islamic Republic, Americans don't call it that. So if I called it that, people would be like, what are you talking about? Is that not right? People are saying yes. Yeah. Well, of course, the Iranian people are not their government. My point is, people who say call it the Islamic Republic are trying to make the point that it's the Ayatollah people who are bad, not the Iranian people. The only problem is, for Americans, we literally don't call it the Islamic Republic. It's not, we don't. So like, even when you guys were saying that, I was like, the Islamic Republic, I was like, oh, I guess it probably is the Islamic Republic. It's sort of like Mexico. Isn't it the, I want to say United States of Mexico, or Is it United States of Mexico? What is it? Is it Estados Unidos de Mexico? What is it again? I'm forgetting already. Or it's something close to that, Mexico, the official name, which Americans don't even know. I speak Spanish and we don't even know. So is it Salomon? Is it? Yeah. So like the same United States of Mexico or Estados Unidos Mexicanos. That's it. Estados Unidos Mexicanos. So any case, yes. So I still am not comfortable calling it the Islamic Republic because I think Americans will not know. Claro que hablo español, sí. He estudiado español 12 años en la escuela. But I get to show off my languages a little bit. Gracias, estoy muy bien. Gracias. But I don't, as I said, I don't do the show in Spanish because, and I'm dropping my paperclip that I fumbled with again. I gotta stop doing this. Sorry, Sasha. Oh, well, now my paperclip is, oh, there it is. I keep playing with the paperclip as I talk to you guys. It makes me feel better. So I don't want to lose it. But the U.S., we don't know yet how the U.S. attacked. We know for sure we used B-2 bombers. We don't know anything else. So, show us your French. Bon, c'est drôle parce que mon français, c'est ma meilleure langue, mais ça fait longtemps que je parle pas français, donc des fois, c'est un peu difficile. C'est un peu congelé, comme on dirait en anglais, frozen. Or pour rusty. Rusty, je sais pas comment on dit rusty en français. But my French is actually better than my Spanish, but I'm a little more used to speaking Spanish because I get to speak it in the neighborhood here. Anyway, will the UK be okay? I think everyone's going to be okay. Look, the Iranians can retaliate. The Iranians can try to use terrorism. They can. Russian. Yeah, my Russian, I told you, I had studied Russian a year, but my Russian is not, I mean, I can't speak Russian. I studied it for a year, so I can say things. Like I said, I've told people, I used it. I was always late. I went to the Soviet Union, and I was always late for our tour bus. And they were, Soviet Union, 1984, very paranoid. And we go to get on the bus, and the driver was this blue-collar bus driver, and our guide, who is a spy, your guide was always a spy working for the government, of course, 1984, Russia, Soviet Union. And I go onto the bus, everyone's on the bus, and she goes, "You are late again. You are always late." And I looked at her, and this is after a week in the Soviet Union. And I'd studied a year of Russian. Back then, I understood a little bit more because I was only 2 years out of studying Russian. And I looked at her, and I said, "Lucha pozdna, чем никогда," which in Russian means better late than never. Because these are the dialogues you had to learn. I didn't know a lot of Russian, but I knew the dialogues. The bus driver, big, overweight, blue-collar Russian Soviet bus driver, broke into hysterics laughter. I mean, guffawing laughter. The guide, who was the spy, looked at me and goes, "I didn't know you spoke Russian." And I looked at I said, "Немного," like just a little, not too much. It was pretty fucking funny. I'm sorry. It was pretty freaking funny. I was very proud of myself because I was like, yes, I got to use my stupid dialogue from Russian class. Anyway, back to the issue here. You're hearing B-2s. We absolutely would have used B-2 bombers because we need the B-2s to attack the main uranium enrichment facility, Fordo. So 3 sites the U.S. hit that we know: Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Fordo is the lead nuclear uranium enrichment facility. In order to build a nuclear bomb, you need uranium. In order to use the uranium for it to blow up, it has to be pure, like 90% pure. It's not 90% pure unless you enrich it. It takes some really good plants to do that. The Iranians had 3 plants. The one plant was the super duper plant that they would use to enrich it to 90% bomb grade. But it couldn't handle that much. The quantity was very small. The second plant was Natanz. It was a mass production plant. It could do a lot of uranium, but it couldn't go there. It could go to like 60%, I think I read, but no higher. 60% is good, but it's not bomb grade, which is 90. We bombed that too. Then there was Isfahan, the third plant. Don't know what the quality was, but the Iranians bragged they were opening Isfahan 2 days ago to purify uranium, to enrich uranium. And basically they said, we're doing this because the Israelis and the Americans, because of what the Israelis and the Americans are doing, we're opening a 3rd nuclear plant. That was 2 days ago. Trump bombed it and blew it up today. It's not smart of the Iranians because knowing Donald Trump, that did not help. The Iranians opening that plant was exactly the kind of thing that could tip Trump and make him say, that's it. Right? We're bombing you. The first plant, Fordo, is the one that's buried deep in the mountain, 300 feet 100 meters. Nobody has any bombs that can go that far. The U.S. does. I think Callum may have been telling me last night that, in fact, the U.S. bomb, thank you, blank name, the U.S. bomb was made expressly to take out this plant, that we needed a bomb that could go 300 feet or eventually 300 feet under the ground. And we built this bomb for that purpose. The bomb was so heavy, 30,000 pounds, that it could only be delivered by a B-2 bomber. The B-2 is the flying black triangle, the flying black wing that the U.S. has is the B-2 bomber, the stealth bomber, the really cool one. It can only be dropped by a stealth bomber. So to take out Fordo, the main facility buried in the mountain, they needed a B-2 bomber, and they needed the 30,000-pound bomb that only the American military has. Thank you for your gifts, guys. Thank you for the sun there, Lindu. So we must have used a B-2 bomber. We had to. We don't have confirmation yet, but we must have. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to attack Fordo. I Googled it, actually. This bomb was not created for Tora Bora. I Googled it a day or two ago. Good point, though. Somebody on TikTok said this was also for Tora Bora, which was when Osama bin Laden was hiding in the caves in Afghanistan, or we believe he was. And it was a smaller bomb. I believe what I Googled the other day was the bomb for Afghanistan was a 20,000-pound bomb. This was a 30,000-pound bomb. So just clarification. So this one was 50% bigger, which my guess is the weight would, knowing the physics of it, being heavier means it would bore further down into the earth. So the whole point of this bomb, as I said, Iran's premier enrichment facility for the uranium is buried deep in a mountain, 300 feet, 100 meters. No bomb can reach it. They can't get through the rock. I've got to give the dog food in a second here. It couldn't get through the rock. So we needed to make a bomb that was heavy enough that it would go through the rock significantly before exploding. So the bomb goes through, it explodes, it creates a hole. A second bomb goes through, it goes further because there's a hole, it explodes. Third bomb goes through. That's what it works. All right, keep going here 1 second. I'm getting the dog a little bit of food so she doesn't flip out on me. 1 moment here. 1 moment. All right, dog. There we go. All right. All right. Here you go. Here you go. There you go. All right. All right. All right. Much better. Dog was getting upset. I usually give the dog a snack at this point of the evening because it holds her over better. And it's usually, I feed her 20 minutes ago. So she's like, the dog was getting a little annoyed at me. And she's 15 and a half. There's only so much you can do. I'll try to grab her. She doesn't like to be picked up, but I will try. She hates being picked up. But I have not shown her on the show in a while. And I think with everything going on, we could use my dog at the moment. So are we going to war? It's hard to say. It depends what Iran does. If Iran hits us back, we're going to war. No, let me say that. That's not even necessarily true. If Iran hits us back, Roy or Ben, thank you for your question. Let me get to that in a second. If Iran hits us back, we could hit Iran back. Now, we'll hit them back 10 times harder, but we could hit, depending what Iran does. Like, let's say Iran just fires some missiles at a military base and no Americans are hurt, but they fired the missiles. I still think Trump is going to hit them back hard, but he may do it once and say, okay, don't do it again, right? If Iran fires a missile and hurts an American soldier, and kills an American soldier, then we're going in. If he hurts an American soldier, we will hit them back hard, but it may still be a single hitting them back hard. So we'll see. I'm going to have to get food in a second too. I'm absolutely starving. So yeah, China's not doing anything. North Korea, no one's doing anything. China, North Korea, and the Russians aren't doing a thing, which is good. Not doing a thing. Gas prices, gasoline, oil, depends what the Iranians do. The Iranians could try to cause trouble. Let me find you a map here. Hold on a second. Actually, hold on. I forgot. I've got the program here. I'm being silly. Google Maps. The Iranians had threatened to close off a significant amount of the oil leaving the Persian Gulf. But again, it's not clear they will. Hold on. Because again, the Americans will take that as sort of an act of war. So here we go. The Strait of Hormuz. So let me show you the region. All right. You've got the Middle East. Hopefully, oh, that's not too bright. Yeah, that's good. Middle East. You've got Iran here. You've got Israel, very small over here. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, huge. Iraq, pretty big. Iran, very big here. I'm going to zoom in now, okay? Saudi Arabia is here. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Dubai, a number of these countries drill oil. A number of these countries export oil. They export oil here, and it goes through here, and then out here, and then you're off of India, and you go to the rest of the world, right? So let me scroll it again. This little point right here is the Strait of Hormuz. This is Iran. Iran has threatened this before. Iran is threatening to close this off, which would close, I think, 20%. I'm trying to think of what the percent of the world's oil or the Gulf oil that goes through that. Sasha, come on. Enough. Let me see here. Hold on here. How significant is the Strait of Hormuz if the Iranians were to shut it down, comma, how much oil goes through there? 1 second here. Significant is the Strait of Hormuz if Iran were to, of course, ChatGPT, the Strait of Hormones. No, not the Strait of Hormones. Let's see. I want to see what the percentage of oil going through. 20 to 25% of the world's daily oil consumption goes through that strait right there. So so it was 20%. 20 to 25% of the world's oil consumption goes through that little area. That's the concern. 20 to 25 to 30% of the global liquefied natural gas exports go through there. Countries relying on it: Saudi Arabia, Iraq, United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar. Okay, so there you go. That's why it matters. So Iran could do it and try to spike international oil prices. The United States would surely respond militarily if Iran did that. Do I agree with the strikes? Yeah. I think they're very risky. I think they're premature. But let me rephrase this. Because Israel already started the attack, because Israel already did significant damage to Iran. Yeah, not a bad idea, Callum. Yep, his speech isn't for half an hour. The president speaking in half an hour. Because Israel has already significantly degraded Iran, we are missing an opportunity not going after their facilities today. Because Israel, for example, Israel already took out so much of the ground radar and the surface-to-air missiles that they made it much safer for our planes to attack. Much safer. The B-2 bombers, but maybe other planes, jets might have attacked. We don't know what else was used. You are missing an opportunity to take out Iran's program now because Israel already did half of it or whatever. So that if you were ever going to come back someday, and here's my point too. Someday, either Iran had to reach another negotiated settlement and give up its nuclear program, or someday the world was going to have to take out Iran's nuclear program. It was one or the other. Either Iran was going to have to give up its nuclear program, or it was going to have to be taken out militarily. I do not think it had to happen now. I think Israel jumped the gun and went too soon. Yes, but that was their mistake, was going too soon. We should have waited to see what happened with the negotiations Trump was having. They were still, the Trump negotiations were dragging on. Trump said 60 days was his limit. He was at 61 days, I think, when Israel attacked. But they were meeting in 2 more days. The Iranians and the Americans were having another meeting, another negotiation meeting on Sunday. Israel attacks Friday. 2 days later, Sunday. Thank you for the gift there, Randy. And the Israelis attacked too soon. So that bothers me. But once they attacked, I think you've got to finish the job. Because, as I said, eventually Iran cannot be permitted to have a nuclear weapon. Iran clearly intended to build a nuclear weapon. Iran was making progress on developing a nuclear weapon. What Iran did not do was Iran was not trying to assemble a weapon. And again, I've compared this to, like the dog here, I've compared it to building a car and how you can make the parts, but you haven't assembled the car on the assembly line yet. They were making the uranium for blowing it up. They were making the missiles for delivering it, but they weren't putting it all together because they knew if they put it all together, the US and Israel would attack, and they didn't want that. But the Iranians had not given up their nuclear program. That was a mistake that Tulsi Gabbard, among others, used incorrect. Two things were wrong. The Hawks were wrong in saying that Iran was 2 weeks away from getting a nuclear weapon. No, they weren't. Iran was more like a year, maybe 2 years away from getting a nuclear weapon. What I mean is, if Iran had said, I'm building a nuke now, it still would have taken them a year or two probably to finish it, to get a rocket that they could deliver it and everything, right? So it was wrong. They were just wrong when they said, not wrong, they were twisting the truth when they said Iran is 2 weeks away. Bullshit. That's not true. But they were also the doves were twisting the truth when they said, Iran gave up its nuclear program 20 years ago. It's like, no, they didn't. They didn't. Iran gave up trying to build a bomb 20 years ago. Again, I'm going to go back to a car assembly line, right? You get threatened with somebody attacking you, and you say, okay, we're not going to complete the car. We're still going to build the steering wheel. We're still going to buy a lot of gasoline, right? We're going to keep working on the engine, and we're going to keep improving the engine, but we're not going to actually put it all together and build the car. That's what the Iranians were doing with nuclear weapons. Because they got scared, they said, okay, we're not going to build it. We're not going to assemble a bomb. And people like Tulsi Gabbard and others incorrectly said Iran gave up its nuclear program. No, Iran gave up its building a nuclear bomb program. They didn't give up their building all the parts to make a nuclear bomb program. It's nuanced, but that's what it is. I'm not scared, no. Because you know what, guys? This isn't the first time in life we've gone through this. I mean, we've been at war or military action or whatever you want to call it a lot in life. You shouldn't be afraid every time there's... I was getting this with, by the way, Ukraine. For 3 years during my lives, people were like, oh my God, should I be scared? And I was like, no. I mean, people always get scared. You should take this seriously, of course. This is not a light matter, right? But oh, Manana, you visited too in 1984. That's funny. But yeah. Anyway, exactly. If you're in the military, as Will just said, if you're in the military, you know, your lives are at risk, of course. You're at risk of either while you're bombing, you're at risk of them bombing you back. I mean, that's a different question, right? But for everyday Americans, you know, Iran could try to come after us, but if Iran comes after us, Trump is going to destroy them. I'm not convinced they're going to do that. I don't know. Oh, Ben. Oh, shoot, Ben. I'm sorry. I just saw you saying, remember the question. Sorry about that, Ben. Thank you, Ben. What do you think happens next? Take out the Ayatollah, Israel seizes Tehran, MAGA fallout. Okay. Trump has said there's nothing next. Trump has said that he was going after the 3 uranium enrichment facilities, and that's it. Oh, I already fed the dog. It's done, Vivi. She's good. I got to feed me soon, though, because I'm starving. Trump had said he was going after the 3 uranium enrichment facilities, and that's it. If Iran hits us, then he's going after more. So from the U.S. perspective, there may be nothing next. Okay? The Israeli perspective, that's a different question. Somebody just said that Iran just fired more missiles at Israel. Israel and Iran may continue to attack each other. Israel may decide to go after the Ayatollah, the Iranian leader. I don't know. But seizing Tehran, I don't know that I don't think Israel could seize Tehran. Israel's too small. I mean, Tehran's bigger than Israel population. So yeah, I don't know about that. MAGA fallout is interesting because a number of interesting things for MAGA. First of all, Trump's movement, right? Trump's movement was anti-war. Trump's movement said America first means never go abroad and use military force because the rest of the world doesn't matter, right? That was what Trump's movement said. Trump's movement said it's never valid to bomb. Trump's movement said it's especially not valid to bomb halfway around the world, right? Wars in the Middle East don't matter to America, Trump's political movement kept saying, right? Trump's political movement said, we don't need allies like Europeans. Who cares about NATO, right? Well, the Brits today moved a carrier strike force into the Middle East to support us. And if the Iranians respond, I think the Brits are going to possibly enter the war as well. Suddenly we realized, oh, we need allies. Suddenly we realized, gosh, what happens in the Middle East actually does impact America, right? The MAGA people realized. Suddenly the MAGA people are realizing, sometimes military force is necessary. And again, you and I may or may not agree with that. The point is, the leader of the MAGA movement, Donald Trump, clearly thinks military action was necessary, clearly thinks what happens in the Middle East matters to America, right? So Trump is telling his people, and he's going to get Fox News and everybody else to repeat it, that, oh, this war in the Middle East was important for America to be in. Well, that goes against everything MAGA claimed to stand for, right? Middle East wars don't matter for America. Now suddenly they do. So this is, I don't know what having said that, I think there's an element of MAGA that is a little cult-like in that anything that Trump says, they go along with. So some of his followers will go, no war, yes war, because Trump says so, right? Middle East doesn't matter. Middle East matters because Trump says so. Some of them might not be happy because Tucker Carlson's not happy. Steve Bannon wasn't happy, but a little. I say a little because I'm on TikTok. TikTok gets upset if I say things that are too mean. So I have to be careful how I say things for TikTok. So just so you know, on TikTok, that would be why. Let me see. Another message from Callum. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, Callum was saying he's happy to go live because I was saying I'd like Callum to go live with us because Callum is former British military, like 10 years, explosives expert, but we don't yet know anything about what happened with the attack. Oh, yeah. So do I agree with the bombing? Yes. I'd say yes, because as I was saying earlier, the Israelis already started it. I think the Israelis started too soon. I would not have wanted us to do this in a vacuum. Had Israel not started doing this, I would say, no, we shouldn't be bombing Iran. But because Israel did it, yeah, mods, thank you. Yeah, just get that person gone. Because Israel already started it, as I said earlier, they provided us with an opportunity to take out Iran's nuclear program, which someday we would have to do. Either Iran would have to agree in negotiations to get rid of their program, or Israel and the America would have to do it. Israel jumped the gun and went too soon, but because Israel already started, I think it was not a bad idea for Trump to finish it. Having said that, it's still very risky. Iran could come after us. I mean, it's very risky. But, the thing is, we're talking about Iran getting a nuclear weapon. That's a huge issue. Iran is a terrorist state, and it is. Iran getting a nuclear weapon is 100% unacceptable. America would have gone to war anyway to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Absolutely. And I've said this before, absolutely positively. And I think a number of European governments would too. But we absolutely positively would. So, what else? North Korea. The problem with North Korea, somebody said North Korea next. The problem with North Korea is they have nuclear weapons. First problem. Second problem, China's kind of their sponsor. Third problem, North Korea and South Korea are right next to each other. Actually, since we're showing maps tonight, let me show you North Korea. North Korea, obviously right on the border of South Korea. Bigger problem is that Seoul, South Korea, the capital that has like 20% of the country's population, is right south of the border. So here is North and South Korea. All right, show you guys. This is North Korea. It's literally 50-50. This is North Korea. This is South Korea. Let's zoom in. as we get really close. Oops, I'm going to go a little bit. This is Seoul, the capital. Put my glasses on. This is the capital. This is the border. Not very good, right? Borders more or less up here, and the capital is here. That is 20 miles, maybe, to the border, with a huge portion of the population, millions in the capital. The North Koreans would wipe them out and they would kill millions. That's why you don't go after them. And the North Koreans have nuclear weapons anyway, and they're crazy, and the government's crazy. So if you were to attack them, would they use their nukes? Yes, they would. That's another issue, Iran. The Russians, I think are rational enough not to use their nukes. The Iranian government, I would not put in the same boat. The Ayatollahs, the Islamic government, I would not put in the same boat. I mean, who let North Korea have nuclear weapons? Trust me, I feel the same way. My suspicion is at the time, because of the Soviets and the Chinese being like friendly and sponsoring North Korea, and South Korea being right there, we couldn't stop the North Koreans without them killing millions of South Koreans. And basically, even though we didn't want them to get nukes, we didn't want a war, especially after the Korean War didn't go so well. What year did North Korea get nukes? It was pretty early. I want to say, was it the 70s? Let me see here. Hold on a second. What year did North Korea get nuclear weapons? Well, 2006. Wow. Okay, that was much more recent than I remembered. First nuclear test was 2006. Wow. That's interesting. They may have had the capability before 2006, but it wasn't confirmed until they did a first nuclear test in 2006. Wow, that's really late. Wow. That would be George Bush's presidency, the Republican presidency, that North Korea went nuclear. But again, it was very dangerous to try to stop them. So I'm not going to fault Bush for that, even though it's horrific that North Korea has nukes. Honestly, it's horrific that the Russians have nukes too. Somebody should have stopped them too, frankly, at the time. Clinton was bribing them and Bush stopped it. Bush didn't stop it. North Korea literally, James, you must have missed this. North Korea did a nuclear test and got nuclear weapons in 2006. That was the middle of the George Bush presidency. Oops. So yes, the Republicans were in power when North Korea went nuclear and they didn't do anything about it. But again, I don't fault them because you couldn't do anything about it. They would have destroyed South Korea and killed millions. But trying to blame it on Democrats is cute when the Republicans were the president when North Korea went nuclear. So yeah. All right. It was the Pakistani. It was the Khan, like A.Q. Khan was his name or something. The Pakistani nuclear scientist who helped North Korea. Was it, or something like A.Q. Khan or something? I'm forgetting his name exactly. Yeah. Or Q.A. Khan, something like that. But correct. Woo, boy. Yeah. So anyway, let's see, guys. I mean, it was Khan. Yeah. Like, let's find his name. I want to get his name now. Who was the Pakistani nuclear scientist who helped the North Koreans get their nukes? AQQA. Abdul Qadir Khan. AQ Khan. I'm surprised I remembered that. AQ Khan was his name. Yep. As I drop my paperclip again. I got to get some food soon, guys, because I'm absolutely. I wanted to get the guy's name. I'm absolutely starving right now. I hate to lose all the people we've got here, but I don't really have anything else to update you guys on here. And I've got to get some food. I could always, I could grab food, but I don't feel like eating my food cold, to be honest. Anyway, Trump is talking in 10 minutes. Honestly, I'm going to guess Trump may not say too much. That's a good question about South Korea. Do I like waffles? Yes. That's a good question about South Korea going nuclear. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they want to go nuclear. I don't know whether how the North might bomb them if they find out they're trying to build one. You never know, right? Anything? Yeah. Basically, guys, we're not going to hear for many hours at all. I don't know if I'm coming back on tonight or not. Again, Trump, I don't think Trump is going to say anything, meaning I don't know that he's going to give us many details. I don't know if the Pentagon is going to give us any details yet. I think I'm going to have to go live tomorrow. Yes. We don't have to have a draft in America. There's not going to be a draft. We've got a huge military. Our military is volunteer. We have like 1.5 million. What's our military? Exactly. Rest my voice. My voice has been doing well, which is good. What happened? The U.S. bombed Iran. We bombed their just to summarize, we bombed their 3 nuclear facilities, 3 most important uranium enrichment facilities. Right now, it would have been about 2 hours ago. And that's all we did. And we told Iran, if you let it go and you don't hit us back, it's over, which was not exactly the smartest thing to do because we need to see if we did sufficient damage to those facilities. And if we didn't, we're going to have to hit them again. So it probably wasn't the smartest. Having said, now, one possibility now that I think about it is after we dropped those bombs, I don't know if maybe Trump thought the Israelis can go in and do cleanup so that if more needs to happen, Israel can do it. Maybe. Trump's address is going. Fordo is one of them. Yep. Well, we hope it got wiped out. We don't know. I mean, we don't know. We're not going to know until the satellite imagery tells us what's going on. Oh, hang on here. I'm looking here. Just last little minute. Do follow me on TikTok, by the way. I am going to go live tomorrow, and I am going to do more videos. Just looking here to see what else is going on. Just looking here. Yeah, I like Josh. Josh Rogan is a Washington Post foreign policy writer. Josh just tweeted, "Why was it necessary to attack Iran right now? Nobody seems to be even trying to answer that question. Just saying it was necessary is not actually an explanation for why now." Correct. I think Israel attacked early. I don't think it was necessary for Israel to attack Iran now. But once Israel attacked for the last 8 or 9 days and caused so much damage, it was the perfect opportunity for us to do, hopefully, a crippling blow to their nuclear program. Because otherwise, you wait for Iran to build back up again, and then we have to attack them years from now when they built up all their air defenses. They've buried more of their program deeper. So I would say we cannot explain why Israel had to bomb now. But once Israel bombed, that's why we had to bomb now, because it was the perfect opportunity. Just looking here. See here. Just looking here. Oh, this is funny. Politico story. MAGA largely falls in line on Trump's Iran strikes. President Trump's sudden announcement Saturday night that he bombed 3 Iranian nuclear sites has skeptics of U.S. military action against Iran largely falling in line. The prospects of strikes against Iran had sparked backlash from Democrats and days of infighting within Trump's MAGA coalition. But after the president posted on Truth Social that the U.S. had bombed Iran, several GOP critics cheered the strikes as a limited action. Several top Democrats had denounced the strikes as illegal and warned they could drag the U.S. into a war. The prospects of Iran gave President Trump no choice, Charlie Kirk, a conservative activist and critic of GOP war hawks, said on Twitter. For a decade, he has been adamant that Iran will never get a nuclear weapon. Iran decided to forego diplomacy in pursuit of a bomb. This is a surgical strike, operated perfectly, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, again, Charlie Kirk, massive opponent of bombing Iran. Matt Gaetz, criticizing it like up until yesterday. Former Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, Trump's one-time pick for Attorney General, who had warned of the Middle East conflict turning into another drawn-out war for the U.S., said on Twitter that the president's strike didn't necessarily portend a larger conflict and likened it to the strike on Iranian General Soleimani. President, no regime change war. Trump the peacemaker. Trump the peacemaker. Okay. I mean, let's not go that far. He did bomb them. Some Republicans had expressed, anyway, this is, very interesting. That's bad. That's bad. Trump did not brief top Democrats, which you always do. Top Democrats on the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, Representative Jim Hines and Senator Warner, both members of the Gang of Eight, were reportedly not briefed. Okay, that's very bad. This is the greater danger. And this is where you get into authoritarianism again. The president briefs the leaders of Congress, the Democrats and the Republicans, on military action. I told you guys earlier when you said Congress, and I said, no, but you would brief them right before the attack. You would tell a small group that the attack was coming because legally, constitutionally, you have to. And it's what you do. Trump didn't do it because Trump doesn't like Democrats. So Trump didn't brief them. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Greece is fine. I mean, Greece is totally fine. Iran doesn't care about you. I'm Greek American. Iran doesn't care about you. Why would Iran go after? No, because somebody's saying in Greece they're getting worried. Why would Iran go after you? You have no role in this, right? But that's very bad. Yeah, that's very bad. You cannot do this without briefing Democrats in Congress. That's very bad. Because again, that's getting into our democracy. That's the bigger problem there. Now, what happened too is, I will say this: Democrats are sort of so scared by their base that they're all being critical because the base freaked out on Hillary Clinton because she supported the Iraq War, and they all freaked out on her, 10 years or 12 years later. So, anyway, all right, guys. Well, Trump is speaking soon. I'm so freaking hungry. I've got to eat, guys. Italy, same thing. You're not relevant to the discussion right now, is my point. Italy isn't involved. It's Trump and Israel right now. Yep. Yeah. All right. You know what? I'm going to call it quits, guys. Trump is talking, but I don't think Trump is going to say anything significant. I've got to eat. I want to protect my voice as well because we have to go live tomorrow. Clearly, this is a big deal. On TikTok, please do follow me. I will be going live tomorrow. I will be doing updates. I might even do an update later tonight. Let's see, but I'll certainly do updates tomorrow. We'll also go live tomorrow. Bad time for my hand surgery on Monday. Oh, well, I mean, it's not a long thing, but I know I'm going to come home and be like, I don't want to go live, but I'm not going to have a choice. I think Monday we're not going to have a choice but to go live. I couldn't tell you what time. I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I've got to wake up. Not only do I have to wake up, but I've got to wake up and figure out the news first, right? I don't want to go live before I see, we may not have any new information until tomorrow morning. So I want to read the news, get a sense of what's going on before I go live. So I could see not going live until 11 or 12, maybe Eastern time, Washington, DC time. So yeah, I would not, this is absolutely not turning into a world war. No, the Russians are afraid and ran. The Chinese are not involved. The North Koreans are not involved, but the Russians especially ran and hid, which is great. So thank you, Hatley. So yeah. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to call it quits. I hate to turn off when we got 3,000 people on TikTok. You guys are very sweet. I appreciate you all being here, but I've got to eat and I do want to protect my voice. And honestly, there's no more news. We know the U.S. attacked. We don't have any more news. But thank you for the gifts there. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you with the gifts and stuff tonight. I know, kind of weird Saturday night, but especially the Europeans. Is anybody in Europe with us still? I know it's super late for you guys. Jens is here still, I think. Before I hang up really quick. Actually, give us a quick shout out of where you guys all are before I hang up. Just to give a quick little where you are. If you're in the US, maybe say where. Otherwise, Norway. Okay, that's pretty late in Norway, I'm assuming. Utah, less late. Scotland. I'm looking for anybody else who's up in Melbourne. Okay, Melbourne, it's morning though, so you're okay. Oh, they may be very early in the morning. Scotland, Sweden, South Africa. That's it. We don't get a lot of South Africans. That's good. Croatia, interesting. Cyprus, you're close. Croatia, a number of Croatians. Austria, Holland. We got a lot of you guys today. Ghana. Oh, that's nice. We don't typically get a ton of folks from Ghana or from to Ghana. Get out of here. Netherlands, England. You guys, El Salvador. Okay, you're our time zone at least. Good to see you though. Netherlands. So we got a lot of the Europeans right now. Canada, of course. You guys are on our time. That's good. North Korea, yeah. Oh, thank you, Heidi. Heidi just upgraded her membership. That was sweet of you. Thank you. And remember, if you like my work, you can also become subscriber, like paid subscribers, members. I think TikTok or YouTube calls them members. TikTok might call them subscribers. TikTok, there's a subscriber button on the bottom left you guys can use. But certainly, at the very least, if you can follow me, I'd appreciate it on TikTok and YouTube. Discord, you guys are already there. But that would be very nice of you. So, all right, guys, I'm going to call it quits so we'll watch Trump. He's coming on now. Well, you know what? Let's wait a minute. Now I'm already here. Let's wait a minute and see if Trump comes on. What the hell? All right, let's wait a minute and see if Trump comes on. See how it is, and then we'll call it quits. Okay? Yeah, that's right. Keep saying where you're from. If you're Panama, I've got cousins in Panama. I've been. Still waiting for Trump.
Well, Anderson, I assume he'll reaffirm that in his voice.
I'm not sure if Trump's going to tell us much that we don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Montreal. Gambia. That's interesting. Malaysia. Toronto. And I've got to eat. I'm so hungry. Well, I made like a smoothie, but it was a smoothie that had vegetables and like it was a very relatively healthy smoothie. But I had it at like 5:00, so I wasn't hungry. And then all of a sudden, as I was doing the show, I was like, I'm hungry. I'm in Washington, D.C. Yeah, Molly. So now I'm freaking starving. And I have a New York Times. We're waiting for Trump to come on. I have a New York Times figgy pudding recipe for the microwave that's to die for. I've never found microwave recipes to be any good, to die for, that I made. And I've got the leftover in my fridge that I need to eat before it goes bad. So, but I think I want real food. I don't know if I want figgy pudding. I need to eat. We are not going to war yet. If the Iranians hit back, we might go to war. But keep in mind, what does going to war mean? And I say that because we were at war in Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years. Didn't go too well, but did it affect your life? Unless you were in the military, if you're American, I mean. If you're American, even European. If you're American or European, unless you were in the military, the war in Iraq and Afghanistan did not affect you directly. It was not, oh my God, I'm afraid, right? It didn't. My point is, obviously those wars mattered. They cost a lot of money. A lot of people got hurt. A lot of people got killed. But regular American citizens who aren't military were not affected. Obviously, I'm talking, you don't have family that's military, right? You know what I'm saying? Regular Europeans who aren't affiliated with the military, not affected, right? So you have no reason to be worried about this right now. No, we're still waiting. ABC hasn't. Okay, CNN does not have it on yet.
Take place on Friday in Europe.
CBS has it on. Really, CNN doesn't. So we're waiting to see. Oh, here we go. Maybe.
Has apparently, according to the U.S., been an effective strike. We're going to hear from the president now.
Oh.
Momentarily, and we'll have more reporting.
Waiting for Trump.
As soon as he's done.
Oh, maybe we're waiting for Trump to speak. I can look here. They told him he's coming now, or they wouldn't take a break like this.
We're waiting for the president to speak.
Oop. All right, let's see. Oh, here, I'll come over here.
As well as,
oh, maybe not. Oh, here he comes. All right, Trump is speaking to the nation about the attack on Iran. Hang on. Hang on. With J.D. Vance walking like a goofball. Marco Rubio not looking great.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
He doesn't know that yet.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
I don't think we know that yet.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani.
Who Trump took
I
out.
decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general. And
Yeah, he's not giving us any details, though.
military
Nothing else.
involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There's never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon.
8 a.m.
And I want to just thank everybody.
8 a.m.
In particular, God, I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them.
Love you, God.
God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
8 a.m. 8 a.m. I don't want to get up at 8 a.m. Like, 8 a.m. Are you kidding me? 8 a.m. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was hoping like 10 a.m. maybe. 8 a.m. Dear Lord. Well, no, because I got to get up and watch it. Oh, God. Oh. All right, so I will summarize. So, to summarize, Trump did exactly what I proposed 2 days ago. He did a limited strike on Iran. He told Iran, we're going after your enrichment facilities, and we're not going after anything else. And if you don't hit us back, it's done. If you hit us back, if you go after our troops in the Middle East in response, if you go after oil, we're going to hit you 1,000 times harder, and we're going after your regime. That's what I recommended, and Trump did it. So now we're going to see if the Iranians respond or not, which is fascinating. Because if you're Iran, you're in a very weird position because you need to hit America back to save face for well, I guess people in the region. You don't want to look weak, but also you want to look strong to your people, right? You don't want to get overthrown. But if you're the Iranian government, you really don't want America to enter this war. It's not clear that America can win, depending what win means. Meaning, I would define win as being, can we overthrow the Iranian government? That's not clear. Can we do massive damage to the Iranian government? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And the Iranian government knows that. And they also know maybe we could also overthrow them, possibly. If you're the Iranian government, you don't want that. So they're in a very weird position, a very difficult position tonight, the Iranian government, because they've got to decide, Do we hit the Americans back to get even and save face? But if we do, we risk losing everything because Trump will blow the hell out of them if they do that. Very interesting position for them, very precarious. You're not getting drafted if you're American because we've got a volunteer military and it's huge. So you're never getting drafted here. Nope. Well, if they, let's see what the Iranians say. Yeah, there's no draft. By the way, I was just going to say, anybody who mentions draft, like, thank you, mods. I was just going to say, anybody who says draft just announced, ban them or at least mute them. All right, I'm going to go, guys. I'm going to go. But like I said, this was very interesting evening. Iran, nice people, horrible government, one of the worst governments on the planet, totalitarian dictatorship, murderous totalitarian dictatorship in Iran. They cannot get a nuclear weapon. The only thing was they were working towards it, but they weren't that close yet. And I think the Israelis jumped the gun, so to speak, by attacking too soon. But once the Israelis attacked and did so much damage to Iran, they opened up the door to us taking out their nuclear facilities because the Israelis have made it so much easier. So let's see. Yeah, sunrise in Iran, Callum says. So now we'll start getting some battle assessments, but we may not get any battle assessments, damage assessments until tomorrow morning. All right. Good night, guys. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate the gifts. I appreciate you all joining us. Do follow me on TikTok and YouTube. But otherwise, sayonara. I will see you all in the morning, and hopefully I didn't ruin my voice. So have a good night, Discord. But, who knows? Maybe 11 a.m. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe 10 a.m. I mean, I may have to get up early anyway to watch this press conference. I probably will get up to watch the press conference. So, all right, YouTube, thank you guys. And TikTok, as always.